Welcome back to the channel. My name's Ardil
My name's JP.
and this car has come all the way from Wales, and there's a good reason behind it. This vehicle has already had a sound system, as you've probably seen by the thumbnail and today's title of today's video, but today is all about seeing what's been done and why on earth it's come all the way from Wales to Cambridge Car Audio. The video is going to be broken up into a couple of segments. To begin with, me and JP are going to go through, we're going to see and listen to the original system that's in there, see what's going on, and then what we're going to be able to do is then rip it all apart and start again. And there's a good reason for it. Let's jump in to today's video. So JP, this is what we're working with.
It's not too bad, to be honest.
No, I mean, that's what I initially thought. When the client came in and showed me the work, I didn't think it was, obviously, we don't always showcase on socials what we come across. I mean, today, for example, I don't know if you saw, but that truck that came in, I literally had to tell him to disconnect everything in that car because that was literally arcing and sparking everywhere that you could possibly look. Yeah. And I told him it's literally not safe to drive.
We've had guys we've told guys not to leave just because we need to fix what's in their car.
And that's just on a consultation.
Yeah.
Because we see these things all the time, unfortunately. It is unfortunate because people are spending money, right? And that is the saddest thing, that it is disappointing that people spend money and it doesn't go smoothly and correctly. And don't get me wrong, we also have issues. No one's perfect. And that's why we don't name any names in videos. We don't call out the company that do it, and I'm not a fan of that because everyone has issues. However, obviously, this job that we're going to be doing on this car is a big project, and we do want to document it in terms of what's in it, and then obviously what we're going to be taking it to, because it is a phenomenal spec of what our client's actually gone for following the consultation. So it's one of those things that we want to obviously document it, and obviously show you guys as well the difference in level. I mean, this install, even just by looking at it, it doesn't look too bad. Obviously, we don't know what we're going to uncover here, but yeah. I mean, just
surface level, it's not too bad. Like, cables are neat, they're all tidied up. There are loose cables hanging about, so if you can pull the seat forward, so realistically this should all be tidied away.
And this is customer facing as such.
Yeah.
And I'm a strong believer as well that obviously, and as I did training with you as well, right? I'm more worried about the behind the scenes work than I am the customer side, because the customer side in my brain, right? If JP, for example, in your brain and your mindset, when you're doing an install, you know that a customer-facing bit is a customer-facing bit, right? So you've got that in your brain naturally, and everyone's human, and they've got that in their brain. So that's the tidiest bit.
That's the bit we're going to polish. Yeah. And whatever. But
the bit behind the scenes is the bit that takes a fitter to an engineer.
And it's the stuff that really matters as well.
It is, and it's the safety element, but also sound as well. It does come into it, and that is why a lot of the time on some systems, when we're doing this sort of work, we sometimes have to strip it all and start again. Sometimes, like the BMW that just got dropped off, we're just tweaking because the majority of it's fine, but it's just not quite to what we would normally do, and then we can tweak. But I mean, on this, obviously, client has decided to start afresh. There's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, have a look over that. I mean, what are you seeing that's kind of different to what you would normally do?
Well, it's sort of loosely mounted on this panel at the back. So
is there a board behind that?
I don't believe so. Doesn't feel like it, and well, the power is completely on, even though the ignition is off. So that's a problem to come across and fix.
Is there a remote cable into there?
I think so. Okay. It looks like it. You've got 3 cable inputs, so you've got your power, your ground, and then a remote in. So
what would, just for the audience, for those of you who aren't too familiar, what would a remote cable normally do?
It's basically just telling the system when to turn on and off. So if you leave it on too long and your radio turns off, you're going to have pops through your speakers. And you obviously want the system turning off when you turn the car off, so you don't drain your battery.
And I think one of the things as well, which I mentioned to the client as well, about having part of our process before we start an install is actually having a battery check on the vehicle as well. because I think that's a really important thing. I think the Ranger that we did similar sort of procedure on, that video is already live, but that had like 4% on the battery.
Yeah.
And we see that quite a lot where vehicles are actually not so 4%, but like we see quite a few batteries before we start an install where they are low, haven't been changed in a long time. Like this vehicle's battery, I believe, is the same one that came from factory.
Yeah.
It's never been changed. Obviously, you're adding more gear, and also it's just a good thing to change on a car every now and again to keep it up to date, keep it operating, keeping the rest of the electrical systems all happy. And it's a foundation point of doing the work. So like we'll go through and check that, make sure that is okay. But it's not going to be helped by the feed, for example. That remote feed pickup is obviously incorrect. That should be a full ignition feed, and I've got the keys here. So obviously it's not a correct feed or whatever they've picked up. They have probably run the remote cable in. And
It's got to go somewhere.
It's got to go somewhere. But we've seen it so many times as well, where you have a cable going into there and then it gets cut at the back.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. It is a bit of a balance. But until we get in there and actually start stripping it down, we make a presumption that remote cable is just fed by the wrong feed in the car. So we'll go through and check that. And then hopefully it's not cut behind there. But I mean, the rest of it does look semi-neat. I mean, it's not... It's not
placed nicely. It's not.
You say it's placed nicely, but you know how picky I am. Do you know what? Do you know what it isn't? It's not straight.
No. Yeah.
I'm very, very smart. I've got a bit of a weird. I've got a bit of a weird eye, and the boys hate me for it.
It's horrible, but it helps so much.
But anyway, it's slightly off. You probably can't see it from the angle you're looking at, but if you measure it, it will be incorrect. Most humans' eyes probably won't be able to see that, but yeah, that
millimeters.
That me. I just walked past a car in the workshop and it's got a wonky number plate by like small amount, and I'm like, I'm just gonna fix that. I can't have it in the workshop with it wonky. But anyway, so like little stupid things like that, we are very picky with. But that's just being a bit...
It all adds up.
Yeah, exactly. And
if you're not picky with everything, you're going to slack on other bits.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to be on it with everything, really.
So obviously they've got this cable coming out, which is obviously loose, right? Well, not secured down. I mean, say we were just tidying up this install, what would you do differently on that, just to tidy it up?
Well, even just cable tying it to the actual sort of panelling so that it wasn't just flapping about, especially with the sub back there.
And or P-clipping it down just to make it straight.
Yeah, even just cable tying them together so that they're not two separate looms. There's a lot of simple things you can just do to hold them together.
This is also down to time element, right? Because you see like the cables that are going, the RCA cables that are going into that DSP processor there. One little thing that bugs me is obviously those cables not being perfectly kind of the black RCA cables on the left hand side there, they're not going out completely straight, and just little things. And this is the attention to detail. And these things also do, eventually these things do affect sound, because at the end of the day, I say this all the time, it's about 20% choosing your product, 80% is the install quality and performance of what we can do when we're doing an install to create a proper solid system. And with that in mind, one big problem that I noticed when doing the consultation is about that sub. So if you probably lean across, so that sub,
you might actually be able to see that.
So there's not much that...
The bass is not playing, the sub is not playing.
It's not going to do absolutely anything like that. So these under-seat subs are quite a common thing that we do. I mean, we just did on that Lancia. Yeah. We do use them.
They're really neat, they're small, they fit into a lot of weird areas.
They're also a very cost-effective upgrade. However, they are a shallow mounted design. They don't kick massively, massively hard. And if you want to be shaken or you want to properly feel the bass, they're not quite that sort of product, but they give a nice.
They do all right if they're right behind the seat, and especially if they're solidly mounted. Yeah, this is actually transfer that bass through.
But that's the same with any sub.
Well,
So whenever we're doing any bass upgrade, we're all about ideally, obviously, like the Prima 10-inch actives, where they're Velcro to they're designed to be like that. These sorts of subs, all passive systems are designed to be properly bolted down into the vehicle. That's where they want to. So you can just see the amps just randomly turned on.
It just turned on. It popped a bit as well.
Yeah, so you just had, and I've got the keys still here. So yeah, that's just randomly turned off and back on again. Anyway, so that sub really needs to be bolted down to do anything, because that's really not doing absolutely.
It's velcroed to a loose panel at the moment.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. Have we got any other products down that back section?
Well, we've got the processor, and then we've got the amp down in there.
Yeah. So obviously this client, as far as what we know, and we'll obviously know more throughout the rest of the install, obviously it's got an upgraded two-way front end, so a tweeter mid-bass driver in the OEM locations. I believe the rears, what's that?
That's a sort of piece to hold the amp down that I just pulled out. So.
Anything else?
I was just looking for bits and found it, so there's a bit of carpet here I can pull out for you as well.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Well, there we go. So as we are on that point, I think it's time to have a listen to this system, see what's in there, and work out what the kind of issue are just sonically, and then I think it's time to then rip it apart.
Hell yeah.
And start again.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. So this is a little bit of a different dynamic. We've got JP sat in the back, hovering over my shoulder, breathing down my neck, which is a little bit odd, to say the least. So what we've got in the car, obviously we've got a little JP in the back. We've got obviously the factory unit here playing, and the reason why we are sat this side with our microphones here, and we've got this new microphone set up, as you can see, on the driver's seat, is because that is in the listening position of the vehicle. At this stage, we're not sure whether this system has time alignment included. Obviously, the system has a DSP, but we're not sure whether the system's got crossovers in it. We're not sure whether the system is fully time aligned or set up correctly. So we're going to have a little listen to it. However, the reason why we're doing it in this way is because this is the only fair way to kind of show the difference between where we are now to where we're going to get to. Because at the end of the video, once JP has tuned the entire system and obviously completed all the work, what we're going to be doing is listening to it in a similar sort of fashion, where we set up this same microphone in this position, because we will be tailoring this to driver focus. So without further ado, let's jump in. Bear in mind, that is like, that's full volume. That's full.
Yeah.
Why is that full?
Are you sure that's full?
No, I hadn't had my phone volume turned up. That is actually quite a common mistake that customers make quite a lot of the time, and that's why I was demonstrating that to you for this video. So don't do that in the video. But anyway, right, I'm sure they won't cut that out. So anyway, right, volume is now turned up on my phone. That's half. That's better. Where's the sub? Is it playing?
It's right behind me, and I can't really feel it.
Oh, you can hear it though.
If I put my hand on it, I can feel it.
It's not here. And I'd probably say you got more bass there than obviously the stock Amarok.
Yeah.
I think it sounds low.
Quite distorted, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
That voice is incredibly muffled. And I've got a huge rattle this side. Can you hear that? I don't know if this mic will pick it up. We'll try to be quiet for a minute. Can you hear that?
I almost think it's from the rear left.
No, I think it's
down
maybe
there.
both.
I think the sub's doing something weird as well.
You think?
It's probably because of its positioning, but yeah, I think that's
I
flapping
think
about
this is
weird
either
as well.
this is either blown
Something's very wrong.
This is
down
either
here.
blown or huge distortion. It's hard to get this much distortion at this volume though.
Yeah, we're less than a quarter, and this should be playing smoothly.
Yeah, nothing should be rushing hard.
It sounds stressed.
It's just muffled. It's just half piston. But how does it leave like this?
Yeah. Yeah, we'd have a serious chat.
You'd be fired.
Yeah.
It'd be a dream come true, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? Yeah, for me, not for you.
Move on to better things.
We'll have a chat. It's really odd. It's very odd. Oh, you hear that? You hear that crackle?
The darkest night is always seen. Wait on the nothing, we're face to face. I've heard about.
I really hope this mic is picking up these problems.
Yeah. It's almost like when you pull an audio jack out and it's just not quite in or out.
Not to lose the game. The darkest night.
Massive distortion.
Yeah, I don't think it's distortion because obviously the unit's not working hard at the moment, right? We're playing relatively low.
I used to dream about money.
Tuned poorly? Is my only thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at half volume. It shouldn't be struggling. There's something crackling there.
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, I think the right side as well.
I'm not really hearing much from the right side at all.
So we have some challenges to get through now, I think. Obviously, we're going to jump into this install. Obviously, the spec of the client, with these sorts of jobs, we go through a consultation basis where the car has to come in, I have to listen to it, and then decide and make a plan with the owner of the car to what way to go, whether we want to just strip it and see what's going on, or whether we strip and replace. Always these sorts of jobs are a bit free-flowing because we don't know what we're going to find.
Yeah.
You're going to take things apart. I presume you're going to find some interesting things behind the car. And these are the things that we'll try to document to you as much as possible. Obviously, these sorts of jobs are a little bit fluid. Obviously, we have got a really cool spec going into this car. So we're going to do some custom work with custom A-pillars, which I know you love doing, and you're doing a set on a Porsche at the moment. But yeah, we've got some really cool stuff going on with the custom work on the A-pillars. We're doing a 3-way conversion on this car. So obviously this car just has a 2-way.
Yeah.
We're taking it to a 3-way, which makes a huge difference. And then we're also going to be building a custom sub enclosure as well. So that will be going back behind there. But actually, if you just Velcro it down, it should be fun. It's going to be properly done. So, I mean, yeah, we've got some serious amount of work to do. Obviously, this client has had the vehicle this time transported over to us from Wales. Obviously, did come in for the consultation, which is obviously a heck of a journey to come for a chat, but it was well worth it because we finalised on something that is going to be really, really correct and bespoke to what he was after in terms of the sound quality that he wanted in the vehicle and what he was basically looking to achieve. And that's why it's always best to have these chats in person, to come in and discuss it, because like you see it all the time where clients have systems done and they're over the moon with the finished results. It's because the spec of the system, that early stage in the progress, obviously the install has to be amazing, but like the specking it has to be correct. And even Luke came in earlier this morning and we specced out his new car. And when you did your car, we sat down and specced it. And you know, and Luke knows a huge amount of the install side, but choosing spec is really, really something. Well, I've been doing it for many, many years now, but like it's a different skill to be able to get the right spec for what the client was after. Same when we did your car, same when we did just did Luke's today.
Budget, what you actually want out of it. It's so no one knows everything, and it's the multiple people putting inputs in and saying, right, well, actually, this is the end result we want. What can we do to get there with this sort of stuff?
I think that's the nice thing about our team.
Yeah.
Like, even sometimes I'll go into the workshop and ask a question about a certain spec on something, because no one knows everything, and people that say that they do are just lying and idiots. So.
Yeah, and we all have our own ways. Like, one of us will prefer to wire it one way, and one of us, but we all actually talk with each other and make sure we're doing all the right things. We lay it out in front of us and go, well, actually, this is the best way based on all of what we got. So yeah,
cool. With that in mind, let's go.
So now that we've got the car in, we can get started. We're going to be nice and quick with this one because we're going to find out what's actually in the car and then compare it to what we're going to be putting in the car. And I'll introduce you to what's in the car already as we go along. So first things first, we're going to do a inspection video. There's a couple of cracks on the windscreen, things like that. So we've got to make sure we take note of them and what's damage is actually in the car already, so that we don't make that worse or add any more to it. Make sure we're not making any worse. For the actual install, we're going to be having Steve helping us out. We're going to be stripping the car down, finding out what's in there, making sure that we're scanning it, making sure what codes are on there, and making sure it's all safe to start. We'll figure out what inputs are getting to our amplifiers and everything, what we can use, what we can't use, and then we'll go from there. But anyway, let's get started, let's get the car stripped, and we'll get going. Cool, so as you can see, we've got ahead and got started with some sound deadening in here. We've stripped a couple of the door cards and the seats out and things like that and started to prep for the rest of the build. But we thought, whilst we're both here, while I've got a Carl to help me as well, we'd get the roof lining down and get a bit of sound deadening up here. We've got 130 sheets of sound deadening going in the vehicle, so we're going to be completely covering everything, so we thought we'd start with this, nice and quick and easy, get it out of the way. As you can see, in the previous shots, we completely covered this in the Skins 3mm sound deadening, and then we've covered this again in the 6mm soundproofing. This is going to completely reduce any road noise coming from above, any wind noise, any things like that. And then we've also gone ahead and covered any of the wiring and everything like this with the offcuts of foam. So we've got along the back here, along the sides, and then along the front. We don't want to have any rattles or anything caused by that. We're going to be adding a lot of bass into the system and a lot of noise into the system, so we don't want the things like that moving. It's going to reduce any noise coming from the roof at all. In the carpets and everything, you have that padding, which is going to hold all these wires still, whereas in the roof, you just don't. So we've properly secured them down with a bit of foam over the top. It's just going to stop them from moving. But apart from that, we'll get this back up and out of the way, and then move on with the rest. Right, so as I've been pulling out all of this, there's been a couple of different problems that I've noticed. With the power wise, we've got a lot of different connections going into single terminals. So we've got all the main power going from the front to this, then we've got bridges from inside that terminal to our separate pieces. So we're powering the amp with our main power, then we're jumping on with the sub power, and then also the power for our DSP amp. DSP amp isn't necessarily much of a problem as that doesn't pull much. However, the sub, especially, we're going to be pulling a bit more power. We want to be fusing each wire individually, as this can become a fire hazard, especially with the earths and everything. And we do have one of the earths, our main earth, again bridged into the same terminal of the amp, just tech screwed onto the bodywork here. There's no sort of attempt to get rid of any paintwork or anything, so it's literally just going through the threads of the tech screw into the chassis. It's not necessarily the best way. Couple of other pieces. We've just got the wires slung up through the back here to get to the DSP amp at the top. It works, but it's not neat, and these wires are going to move, especially with the sub right here. Yes, it wasn't necessarily attached very well, but they will move with the sub playing. Another thing was we had some problems with the amp turning on and off at weird points and then making the subs and things pop and getting popped through the speakers. This is because on our amps we have a couple of different ways to turn on the amps. We have a remote input, which you can grab from the ignition of the car or the ignition from the back of the radio, things like that, which is going to turn on when you want it, where you're going to tell it when to turn on. We then have things like audio. This is what he's used. The audio detects when it's getting a signal from somewhere, so from our inputs. So he's grabbed an input from the back of the radio, it looks like, front left and front right, and as soon as the amp or the DSP processor recognises that there's any signal coming from there, it turns on. Obviously it's giving some sort of minor signal output and it's turning it straight on, and then we're getting pops from the speakers and things like that. Not the best. And then he's taken the remote out from here and sent it and bridged it between both ones. That's fine, but we need a remote input. This is why we tend not to use the audio. We try and keep away from that as far as possible. We then also have the DC offset, which just turns the processor on when we get a spike in voltage, so when you turn the car on. But apart from that, we're going to get all this out, get our products onto a bench as well, and then we can talk through what we're putting in as well compared to what's in there already. Cool, so we've got the head unit out and we can have a look here. They've taken a couple of outputs from the back of here. It looks to be front left and front right, straight from the back of the head unit. Input straight into there. And then we've come into here with, I assume, rear speakers and other speakers, potentially woofers and rear speakers. I'll have to double check that when we're actually in there. But bullet connected on, and they've cut away the connections so it's not going back to the original looms. We're going to be completely replacing this. We're adding an aftermarket head unit, so we're going to have to tee onto this. We'll get all of our outputs straight from the back of the head unit, and we'll skip off all of this and send our own outputs straight to each speaker. But let's get to it. Right, so first things first, now that we've got door cards and everything off, we need to focus on sound deadening, prepping for actually installing the system. Obviously it has had it's had the previous sound system in it, and they've had some sound deadening already put in. It hasn't stuck quite well in a lot of places, especially on these sort of cardboard areas. It is tough to stick to these areas. Basically just needs a lot more heat and a lot more pressure. But the areas like here, the sound deadening is well applied. It's potentially just not enough, but that's based on what the customer has actually spec'd beforehand. So they've spread the sound deadening out to actually what the customer has paid for. But I'm going to strip this off, get it prepped for what we can do. Then there's also the actual door that we've got to worry about. So in the doors here, we've got the same sort of story. It's not quite stuck on these sort of foam pieces, but that's fine. However, he has done a lot. They've done a lot of stuff here. This is very good. It's going to keep a lot of the water out from outside of the car to the inside. There is a little bit of leakage on these adapters, I've noticed, just a little bit of water erosion. That's not necessarily a problem, it just happens. But the 3D printing adapters tends to sort of reduce that because we're creating a sealed environment. Also things like this, we've got cloth and everything to stop rattling on the OEM clips, and duct tape down. This is all very good stuff. It's going to reduce any of that sort of movement of wires and non-needed rattles. We're probably going to end up carpet taping or using foam like the OEM look more, just so that it looks a bit neater. and we're going to remove a lot of this just because it's mostly in our way. We've got to remove all of this to actually fit our adapters, and then fit all of our own sound deadening, and we're going to be removing this because this looks OEM and they've just gone over the top, so I doubt there's much sound deadening behind it as well on the actual outer skin. We're going to get fully fill the outer skin as well, just so to reduce any of that resonance. So similar story in the rear doors, we've got the sound deadening where it's most needed, not much up here, and they haven't removed this as well. So we're going to remove this, get the old speakers out there, screwed straight in with the tech screws. We're going to custom fit the adapters in here as well. But yeah, we'll get all this stuff off, reset, and then get all our stuff on. Cool, so as we've stripped the rest of this out here, Steve has pulled out the carpet and we've noticed a real lack of sound deadening under here. The sub was mounted here, obviously not very well, but there's a huge tinny panel here to the point where they've actually put a small amount of factory sound deadening on here, which you don't see often unless it's this tinniness. And sound deadening really would have helped this area and really would have helped the sub actually play a lot better. But as we've got the carpet out, we'll get the front carpet out and get to sound deadening this because it really needs it. Right. Before we get all the sound deadening in here, we just have to quickly mention the cables. We're going to be completely replacing them, getting rid of all this old stuff, especially the power wires and stuff, because we're going to be needing extra power. And we're going to be needing a lot more cables because we're going to be running individual speaker cables to each speaker. They had the crossovers in the front for the front speakers and then powered the rears. But we're going to be completely replacing all of this. But yeah, I'll leave Steve to it and get going.
So, as my friendly colleague has ran away to go and fill his furry face and left me to pull the cables out, I was mildly irritated, but joke's on him. Due to the lack of tape and cable ties, that's going to take me about 5 seconds. Done. The first part for the soundproofing was to remove the existing soundproofing already in the vehicle. Now when we were doing this, what we noticed was as it pulls off and leaves the bitumen on the back of the actual foil plates, then it hasn't stuck properly because it should have left most of this black stuff on here and be a nightmare to clean off. As it wasn't, that would imply either that one of several things may have been the issue. It may have not been hot enough or rolled on enough when it was fitted originally in the first place, or what we think more likely is there'll have been a slightly waxed coating on this factory when it was built, which hasn't been cleaned off properly. So all we do, before we do this sort of thing, we use a standard brake cleaner, we spray it onto the panel, and then we wipe it off. Actually, as I'm wiping this off now, I can feel that the microfiber is dragging slightly, which is obviously the wax section from there. So what we'll do the whole panel with the brake cleaner and the microfiber till it's nice and clean, and we've got a nice adhesion to the plain metal, then we'll reapply the new soundproofing.
So now that we've finally got all the products out of the car, we can actually compare what was in the car to what we're going to be putting in ourselves. This is going to be a massive upgrade by the looks of it, as they only had the one amplifier and the processor and the sort of three different speakers. The front end was controlled by the single channels to the front. This went to both the tweeters and the woofers and was separated by this crossovers. These were just placed underneath the dash somewhere, pretty standard, and just separates the signals so that we are only getting tweeter signals through to the tweeters and woofer signals through to the woofers. Pretty standard, however it means we're going to get less power to the woofers. And then the rears were just a coaxials that were powered off of a single channel as well. So the front and the rears are getting the same amount of power. We tend to do a bit more power towards the front just because that's where the driver is focused. And we'll talk about that later, but this just gives an overall sound performance boost for the car. One thing to note as well, the car did have a lot of rust damage and water inclusion into the speakers. The fronts are especially bad, and as you can hear, it's actually started to degrade the actual speakers. There's a lot of rust on things like the terminals, around the screws and everything, and on the actual magnets in the back. This is a problem because it's just going to degrade the speakers more and more and more with time and start to create noises and warp everything inside. The tweeters weren't too bad, they were just mounted to the back of the A-pillars, pretty standard. We did pretty similar stuff here as well, but we're going to be upgrading that by putting some custom A-pillars in the car, but we'll talk about that again later. The amps and everything, it's all X-Fire audio. I'm not sure of the brand, and a couple of us are not sure of it either here. I potentially will look it up later. You potentially know it back on your end as well. Let us know if you do. I haven't heard of them though. But it seems to be an American brand. We also have a shallow 10-inch rainbow sub. This is a pretty similar one to the We2 as well. We have an Eaton sub. It's a nice compact small sub that fits into small spaces. They usually go under seats quite a lot because it's so shallow it can slide under the seats quite well. Obviously this wasn't bolted down to the car or anything, so we weren't really getting any bass from this though. But we're going to do a massive upgrade with our sub. The processor is a pretty standard processor, I haven't actually seen the software myself, but by the pictures and everything that I've seen online, it looks pretty standard to what we've used as well. The amp doesn't seem underpowered or anything, it's just the fact that it was spread across so many speakers that it's not giving too much power. But we're going to move on to our speakers, and we're first going to start with our shallow subwoofer. This is going to be a massive upgrade. As you can see, it is already a huge difference in size. If I can get this one up here, this is our shallow 10, and it is almost double the depth of the original one. And we're going to be creating a custom enclosure for this, so it's going to be bolted and molded to the actual car, so we're going to be getting the maximum bass transfer that we can. Moving on to the actual front speakers though, we're going to be doing the 3-way Hertz Melee Legend upgrade. This is a massive upgrade. This is going to be getting a lot of power through the front end, and we're going to be placing these in the door cards in the original places with our custom 3D printed adapters. These are pretty standard ones that we have for all Volkswagens. I think I put it in the Transit last week. So we quickly printed them off, and we're going to be putting the water guards in there as well. These are going to be what's going to be reducing that rust in those doors. We have a wet door card area that we're going to be completely sealing off with our speakers and everything, but these are going to extend back, try and keep all that water off of our speakers. The water falls onto these, runs off the back, stays away from our stuff. We also have these shrouds at the front, which are going to be forcing the actual airflow from our speakers and all the sound out of the door card instead of just bouncing around on the inside. But moving away from that, we have our mids and tweeters. These are going to be going in the front. So we have our 3-inch mids and our 2-inch tweeters. These are going to be going in our A-pillars because we don't have anything in the door cards wherever to mount them. It only comes as a standard 2-way setup of the factory system, which is what they've played with. But these are going to be going into our A-pillars so that we can get the maximum amount of vocal range heading straight towards you. This is going to really help. Our tweeters we're going to be mounting on those little pods on the doors. We're going to be adapting them as well so we can fit these in and face them towards the driver, giving them the best sound possible. Moving on to the rears, we're going to be doing a 2-way upgrade. Instead of our coaxials, we're going to be adding in a 6-inch Voces. These are a nice clear system. These are got the same sort of power, however they're going on clarity, not power, so we're going to be getting a nice clear background fill for the customer. These are just going to be going in the bottom, and then we're going to be having to mount these in the doors as well. We're going to think about a 3D adapted sort of mount for them, or we're going to be flush mounting them into the door. We're going to talk with the customer about how we're going to do that and develop it as we go. This is also just going to give way more clarity at the back. We're going to be driving all of this off of our Forza Bit 1214 processor. This is a lovely little amplifier. It's going to be putting out a nice bit of power for this system. Absolutely fine for this sort of system. We don't need to be going any bigger, especially for what the customer has sort of requested. This is also going to be allowing us to tune our system just so nicely. These are lovely amplifiers to play with and lovely to tune with. We're going to be powering our woofers. We're going to be doubling them up, so we're going to have 1, 2 powering our tweeters, 3, 4 powering our mids in the front, 5 and 6 going onto our left woofer, and 7 and 8 going onto our right woofer, 9, 10 to our rear tweeters, and 11, 12 going onto our rear woofers. The reason we're doing this is because we're going to be giving more power to our woofers in the front, doubling up those channels, giving a bit more bass in the front, and bringing all that mid bass right to the front. It's going to be mega when it's finished. And then 12 and 13 is our pre-outs. This is going to go to our subwoofer, which is going to be going straight to our one channel. This is just a pre-output, and then this will amplify it, so we can control it with the processor in here and amplify it with this system. This will just be running the subwoofer on its own. As we've seen before though, the X-Fire, I can't get into the software at the moment. We might be having a look at that later if I can get into it, seeing what their tune is, and then we can compare it to what we're going to be tuning on our thing, see where they're sort of potentially going wrong, why it maybe sounded a bit weird. This is all going to also be controlled with the customer with our DSP controller. This is a lovely little bit of kit. It's nice, neat, can be hidden anywhere in the car. We can hide it in glove boxes, hide it in center consoles, or place it on display. We're also going to be talking with the customer about where he wants this, but this is just going to allow him to control his sub volume a lot easier, control sort of volume of the general system, give him memory presets so he can tune for different types of music or what he prefers, or change it to a center focused system or driver focused system. Very useful. And as you saw in the previous system, I don't think there was a sub controller. We haven't found one yet, and I don't think there was actually any way to control the subwoofer. So it's going to make our subwoofer very, very usable. We can give him a lot more power, and then he can turn it down when he wants to. But apart from that, we're going to get on and get into the car. We've got a little bit more to strip out of the car, just a couple of little bits, and then we can move on to sound deadening, running our cables, and getting this all in. Now that we've got a bit of sound deadening in the back here, we've done most of this back shelf and seating area. We're going to leave the rest till later, but we're going to get started on a bit of a amp rack and sub design. We need to get this started, as it's going to be a bit bigger part of the build. But first we're going to get the seats back in to figure out how much space we really have behind it, get a couple of the panels back in, and just start to get a rough idea of where we can place things. The rough guesstimate of what we're going to do is place the sub on the left hand side here. It's going to be closer to the driver, and it's going to give us nice lots of space here. We're potentially going to remove this just because these will flap with the sub, and we've got a spare one on the other side, so we don't have to worry about cabin pressure with the aircon, because there's still the one on the other side. And then the other side, we're going to be placing the amps nice and far away from the sub, so we're not rattling the shit out of them. But now that this is lovely and sound deadened, we've not got that horrible tinny noise, we can get on with the actual build. So now that we've got the sub in and everything back in, we can now move on to just putting the seat back in. This is a final piece to go in for the car to be back together. We have had to do a couple of modifications. The sub box obviously is a very, very tight fit, and we've only just got the volume for the sub. However, we did have to work around this seat belt in the back here, and yeah, I think I've maximised to the most how big we can actually make this sub box. But yeah, we'll get the seat in and then we can move on to tuning the actual system. For that, we've already run our USB forwards, nice and hidden so we can access it later. But we'll sit in the front seat and use REW and things like that to get it all sorted. But yeah, we'll move on to that and then get finished. Right, so as you can see, we've got the A-pillars in and the tweeters in the pods on the side. Some keen-eye viewers may have noticed that we restarted these actually. We got about halfway through, started getting into the car and sort of getting a general shape, realised that they just weren't pointing in the right direction. This was going to make sort of sound staging and tuning a lot harder, and it just didn't look right from the driver's seat and where we were sat, so we redirected them more towards the centre and a lot more forwards. We have actually just pointed them both towards the same place. As it's a combination between angling them towards the driver and mounting them flush. There's a couple of different positives to doing either, and going halfway sort of makes that balance between looks and actually pointing in a better sort of sound solution towards the driver. Also, with the A-pillar on the passenger side, we had to colour code the handle, the grab handle for the passenger. Obviously the original ones are sort of a cream to match the original A-pillars, but now we've Milanoed them to give a better look. It's also just a nicer finish. It matches the sort of look of the grills. However, obviously the cream handle wouldn't have matched, so we truck bed lined them, and then to give it a bit of a better look, so it was nice and grippy, adds grip, and it's going to last a long amount of time. And then we've just matte lacquered over the top of that to give it a bit of an extra sort of nice look. Takes away that harsh sort of finish from the truck bed liner. Also, with the actual head unit side of things, we completely replaced this, and obviously, as you saw before, there was the original bullet connectors in the original one. We've completely removed that, just got rid of it. And our actual connections into the back of that head unit are directly from the back of the head unit using the ISO plug. These head units obviously come with all standard sort of aftermarket head units come with the ISO plug adaptions, and we pinned directly into that with our wiring straight to the amplifier, so it's going to have a lot less connections, a lot less problems, and less risks of it going wrong. But now that we're done at the front here and we've got most of it back together, we need to move into the rear and get the sub finished and all mounted in and get all the amps in, and then we'll move on to tuning maybe later. Cool, so with tuning we're just about there. There's still a couple of little bits to do. I'll sit in the driver's seat and actually listen to it and just make sure all the levels are correct, and then we'll get outside. But first we can look at actually what I've done. So the first basic thing we can do with these setups is just go into here, we're in the actual Audison software, and from here we can do a configuration wizard. This is basically a basic setup. It goes through things like our sources, our input configuration, make sure everything's correct on the input side. We can set that up to what we actually want, coming from here to what we want to receive, and telling it exactly what it's actually receiving. Then we can actually set up what's going out and just a basic sort of stuff for what it needs. Then we move on to our then we can just go through all the different features, make sure our DRC is projecting what we actually want it to do. So we've actually set this one up just to do volume and sub controller, so we can control the actual sub volume. If he just thinks it's too loud, he can turn it down, and we've set that to be the maximum at the end of the tuning. And then we've also got the volume so that he can actually have a bit more control over volume of the entire system. With regards to the actual setup of the tuning and everything for this, we use the Accordo Wizard. This is a very useful tool in the actual software, where we can go through and tell it exactly what we want it to do. With this one, we haven't done the auto EQ. This is a system which we're actually going to do. We did in detail a little bit later with a different software. where it is changing all of the individual frequencies to be boosted or reduced, so that we're getting rid of those annoying sort of ringings and anything that's just playing a bit weird. But we did use this for the auto time alignment and the auto level alignment. These are very useful because we can electronically control the exact distance that the frequencies travel from amplifier to speaker and then to the ear, with our microphone just set up in the listening position. So it exactly measures the time it takes for each speaker to play from amp to speaker to ear, and then delays them the exact amount that it needs to, so that as it reaches that microphone, as it reaches your ears, it's playing at the exact same time for each speaker. The auto level alignment is just a quick tool as well that we've used to get the sort of volumes of each speaker correct, so that they're all the same volume as they reach your ear as well. We then change that afterwards a little bit as well, just depending on what we actually want to hear in the car. So we've turned the woofers up a little bit and things like that, because we want a bit more mid-bass. If we go up here though, this is our general EQ for the system. As you can see, our tweeters and everything are set up to about 4K. Our mids are set up to about 400 to 4K, and then our woofers are set 400 to 60. We're taking them quite low. We could take them lower, but there's no need to stress them, and actually where they are, they're not playing bass too well, so we don't really want to go too lower than that, because we're just going to start stressing them out. For the rears, we just set them up for a general one, and the sub we're going to be playing up to about, I think it's about 70 or 80. We're keeping that quite low and giving it a real punch, so we're giving that mid bass to the front and then giving that full on bass to the back, so we can play that even harder because we're giving it less to actually play. We might change that as later on as we listen to it though. We do have tons of different memories that we can set this up with. We'll set this up with the customer afterwards and to what he actually likes. But moving on to our REW, this is how we got our EQ set up for our system. As you can see on the screen, we have the different measurements for our front left hand side actually that I've got shown up here, and this is what we've used to EQ our system. We take an RTA reading of the vehicle, we play a white noise through the speakers, each speaker individually, and listen to exactly what it's giving our microphone. This is exactly what is coming out of our each speaker and then actually reaching it. So comparing side to side, they will give different frequencies to the microphone differently. It's just based on how it bounces, where it goes, what's actually getting out of the door, and where the speakers are facing in comparison to the microphone. So our left hand side compared to our right hand side will be different, hence why we are tuning each speaker individually. So these are showing our measurements of the actual speakers that we've taken from the vehicle. As you can see, our tweeters are a little bit higher than our mids and our woofers, so we'll turn those down in comparison volume wise. And then we go into our EQ, and if I select the front of tweeter, you go into the EQ of the system. I'll just set this to fit. Anyway, we can give this a couple of different settings to how we want our system to play. We use obviously the Audison output pieces, and then we set it to a bass limited speaker because we're tuning our tweeter, and then we set it to our cutoff frequency for the speaker, so we can control exactly what we want this to EQ our speaker to. So we're taking what we've got, we're giving it what we want it to try and achieve, and then we give it a target curve. So this is our general curve and shape that we have created, that actually Luke has created on this one, of what we want our final product to be, and then we'll take a section of that and create a desired target line for what it wants to achieve. We can then set the volume of what we're at, this is just generally what it's playing at, and then we can tune what we actually want it to what area we want it to be tuning to. So for this one, we'd probably set it to about so we've got the speaker capacity to about 4,000, so we probably take the tuning range from 2,000 and up. Then we basically just take this through Sorry, 1 second. Basically, once we've got our basic parameters set up of where we want it to tune it to, we quite simply match the response curve, and it's going to give us an exact EQ of which will take what we are receiving before EQing, and it will give us a parameter and EQ filters that we can then basically copy over. This is a really good system as it's electronically controlling exactly what we're getting and then telling us exactly how we can make this as flat as possible and as nice as possible to the target curve that we're trying to achieve. We'll then copy that over into the Audison, and it literally copy and pastes over, so it's nice and easy. And then along the bottom here you can see exactly what it's done in the actual REW software. This then gives us that nice flat line, nice flat volume. We have it actually set up on this one to be nice and flat and then up on the bass. This is just a basic setup. We will then talk with the customer once he arrives and change that accordingly. But yeah, there's not really much more to than that. Obviously there's a little bit of adjustments and everything that we're going to have to do afterwards. Just sitting in the driver's seat and listening to how it actually sounds and listening to the music that the customer actually likes as well. Getting it to sound the best to each possible music. Obviously rock music does better with certain frequencies being boosted, whereas vocal music, especially, or even brass and things like that, we're going to be wanting to bring certain frequency down. It could just be too piercing, especially tweeters and that sort of stuff we'll have to bring down. So that's also where the memories come into play, as we can make different memories and different settings to play for different music for the customer. We'll also set this up to be central focus, so that when he's got lots of people in the car, he can just put it to a general center, so that it's not all sounding to him necessarily. We can time align it and adjust it to the rest of the car so that it sounds best for everyone, as it will sound weird if you actually sat in the passenger seat compared to the driver's seat when it's tuned. But yeah, apart from that, we'll sit and get in the driver's seat, just play around a little bit more, and yeah, then we'll get it outside and see what it sounds like. Right, we're all done, Arnold.
Thank you very much. Finally completed the job on time. So, the Amarok, obviously it's been a bit of a challenge. We've seen some interesting things on this, haven't we? Are you just going to drink your tea?
Yeah, no, I was.
Are you going to keep drinking your tea during the video?
It's my coffee break, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, you have enough of them.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird one. There's been a lot of, I wouldn't say wrong things, just not done to a standard. Lack of cable ties, proper sealants of, yeah, I think we got 6 cable ties in total.
That wasn't as good as the, no, you had 9, no?
No, I had 6.
Oh, the other one had 9. The other one had 9
yeah.
that we're doing.
Yeah,
so yeah. We were also, at the same time of doing this project, we were actually working on a BMW 2 Series. That video might go live before this or after one, but yeah, that had 9 in it, didn't it?
Yeah, he beat me.
That was better. That was better. So we see this a lot, where installs just aren't done properly, and these things we found, like, it's one of those things that's a bit of a balance. Like, there's one thing of not being neat and tidy, and then there's another thing about not being safe or being lied to in terms of a business to a client. Obviously, yeah. On that BMW, he got lied to, so he got told that he was having full sound deadening done across the vehicle, and there was like 1/24 of a sheet installed into the entire car. So like literally that much was installed. So they had literally a square that big behind each tweeter on that car, which was just silly. And
it was almost holding the tweeters in. I've seen it.
It
myself.
was, but so when we saw it, we thought it was broken, but we thought maybe they broke the clips, and then we removed the sound deadening, and they hadn't. So there's literally no reason for it. Like, that's the one area we wouldn't sound deaden.
No, yeah.
Like, that's not a needed thing.
Tweeter is the least bassy speaker possible.
Obviously, on this one, I think this is slightly different. Obviously, we only hear one side of the story. We hear the client side.
Yeah.
That's why we also don't name names on on these videos, because we don't know the full story.
We're not here berating their install, we're just showing what we're doing differently.
Yeah.
It's not what they're doing wrong, it's what we're trying to do to do the best install we can.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things with this as well is you never know what the client has paid for
Yeah.
or what they've offered.
Yeah.
So I mean, with this, he might have potentially paid for what he got and the level of work that he got. There's no way of knowing that.
Well, yeah,
so.
like this one, he's even talked with us, and we went from 130 sheets to now 160 sound deadening sheets. We've done the bonnet, we've done the wheel arches, we've done loads of other bits, and that's because of the spec of the customer. We wouldn't have gone that far if we hadn't have talked to him and he hadn't gone for that spec.
And that's a communication thing with kind of the office and the client to go through, and just kind of manage expectations and get a car to how they want it. So let's have a quick run through of obviously spec and obviously what's gone in and where it's gone in the final results, and then later on we'll be sitting in the car and we'll have a listen to it with the microphone set up and stuff. So you're probably the best man to go through this. So if we start at the back end of the car.
Yeah.
So inside here, so obviously behind those rear seats, you've got a lot of stuff now.
Yeah, very tight fit. We ended up with the customer chose the 1214 Forza amplifier. This is giving the 12 amplified channels to the most of the system, and then we've got those two pre-outputs to the one channel amplifier. That's going to be just controlling the sub, and we fit both of them behind the seat on removable actual plates, which you might be able to see on there as well.
I think that's one of the biggest things. So how the original amplifiers were mounted was one of the biggest problems about this install, I'd probably say.
Yeah.
Mostly because for a safety side of thing, the rest of it was safe as such, other than the fuse box, which we'll move on to later. But that I don't think that was done by.
No, I think that was someone else.
But we'll move on to that in a minute. But the amplifier rack, and obviously this client was having issues where sound was cutting out when driving, and also was having loud popping noises when driving as well. So that, from what we could establish, was the amplifiers shorting or going into protection and turning back on because it didn't have the correct ignition feed to it, didn't have the correct it had the correct power cable.
It had power cables, yeah, no, it was all correct there.
Correct,
but that they were jumped from, I think they went into the amplifier and then they were jumped from amplifier to the processor and the subwoofer. So they weren't actually individually cabled. It was all just seriesed off of each other.
Which the way the engineering works on that is incorrect, and also can cause issues like safety issues on a vehicle, like car fires and these sorts of things. So it's not wired correctly. If the client is using that system to the full maximum capacity, it's going to have a problem. Okay, so that's why it's important that your electronics on a vehicle are done professionally and properly. Unfortunately, this is actually the part of the problem. I say professionally and properly. This client did go to a professional outfit to have the work done. It wasn't a backstreet garage.
And it was all very good cabling. It was all very good. There was connection cabling in there. There was proper power cabling. It was all audio stuff. It was all correct. It's just not necessarily tied down correctly. And
obviously the amps and the sub weren't secured down properly as well. And again, these are products that have got live power cables going into them, and a shorting of them can happen when things aren't secured down properly. One thing, the cables aren't secured down properly, or the actual product itself isn't secured, and also that's going to cause the product issues as well, because the product's not designed to be bouncing around.
No.
It's designed to be...
Movement over time causes wear, and especially with cables moving, they tend to end up snapping and causing fatigue in them, especially with age. They become brittle and then end up snapping. So
exactly. So I think that was probably one of the biggest concerns, and obviously just how things were generally mounted. But that is also just a speed thing, because these sorts of jobs are a lot of time just thrown in.
Again, we don't know how long they've actually had to do this job. They don't know what they promised the customer or what the customer's asked for.
And
that's
the same thing, I suppose, with us as a business. And we discussed this, I think, a couple of weeks back. Like with majority of companies, there's a mindset of normally the owner of how the work wants to be done. Whether they want to go down the route of quality, which takes more time and it costs more money, which is one thing, or you just get it in and get it gone and that's your business model, which is, and there's like I think I said to you last week, like there's no right or wrong to it as such. It's not like if your client's paying over the odds and then it's done crap, then that's not fair.
Yeah.
Like we had on that BMW 2 Series where he's paid for something and then not had it. That's not fair. But if you've, in the world of life, if you pay crap money, then you get crap. It's pretty straightforward. It's so, and also like this, the client had, like we discussed when we messaged him about sound deadening, adding the extra sheets and stuff. His choice, yes, it added on a bit more time. He was happy with that, and that's that freedom that our clients have to give us to be able to get a car to where we need it to be.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the A pillars, and you can explain what happened there, and reason why that happened as well. But inside the back there, so you've got two amplifiers, the Audison 4's a 12 channel and the Audison 4's a 1 channel. So you've got running a fully active system. So you'll find that on all our systems that we do pretty much, they are fully active, which means each channel of an amplifier goes to individual speakers in the vehicle. The vehicle originally only had that two-way setup in the front, so it had a two-way and then a coaxial set in the rear, and then the active sub that was flopping around behind the seat. I can't say mounted.
No.
It wasn't mounted.
Velcroed loosely.
Yeah, loosely Velcroed, yeah. So there's been quite a lot of changes, because the car originally actually had a DSP in it. But we didn't. I don't think you went through and
I couldn't actually get into the software, so I searched up online. I couldn't actually download any of the software for it, so I couldn't actually look at what the tuning and everything was. Didn't sound good, but I could tell it was going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
But the way that it was wired as well, it was all controlling. So there was two outputs controls to the 4-channel amplifier, and then the 4-channel amplifier was going individually to each end. So you had front left, front right, rear left, rear right control, and then the front was split with crossovers.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually have much control anyway.
This really annoys me actually, because when people buy a processor as a client, as you buy a processor, you're buying control. It's literally what it gives you. Like, otherwise, there's lots of benefits to a processor, but like, the big thing is control.
Yeah.
And then people fit fucking crossovers into cars we see it all the damn time. Crossovers on systems with a processor. Stupid. If you're putting in, and if you're ever speccing a system and we're not doing it, if your installer has done or is going to put a crossover in a system on a front stage, especially rear stage, not as drastic, but front stage of a vehicle, if they're using crossovers and you are paying for a processor, slap them. Nothing else to do other than slap them. Honestly, it is the most. Abin, your phone, turn it off. Put your phone on silent when we're filming. So yeah, the big thing is it's just control. You literally, a crossover limits control.
Yeah.
It's fine on entry-level systems. We're doing one today on an entry-level system where we're just doing front rear speakers and a sub.
Yeah.
No amplifier, fine, crossovers are there, no issues at all. But if you're doing a DSP product, make sure your installer, if we're not doing it, gives you your bloody crossovers back in the box. If you have to buy it as part of a kit, they should be giving them back to you in a box. You do not want them in a car.
It's an expensive piece of equipment, and they're there for control, and then you're getting rid of it, and it just makes it pointless.
We buy the kits as a fully active system.
Yeah.
We don't buy the crossovers because it's waste of your money, because I'm not going to use them. We're running fully active. It takes more work, takes more time, takes more effort. It's a bit more of a pain for you, but like at the end of the day, the difference it gives you, just a stupid level, right? Because you get control over every component. You get to set individual crossovers, you get to set every single parameter you could possibly think of on each product, and you get full independent control of each one.
Yeah.
So you can control time alignment correctly, you control everything. And potentially we'll do a video just on the stupidity of crossovers and a processor together.
It's nuts how much difference it makes just being able to process it.
So many installers do it. All the time we see it. Same with that BMW 2 Series, process system and then crossovers.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Honestly,
this one really didn't need it. It could have just run off the amplifier and been the exact same.
It could have. We won't go there because it gets me annoyed. So we've got behind here then the custom sub box.
Yeah.
This took a lot of.
that was painful to build. To be honest, it was very, very tight fit. I even turned around to Idle and at the beginning and said this might not be possible. But with most of the stuff, we gave it a go and somehow made it fit. I've had to fiberglass the entire back wall to actually form it into the back wall shape, just because I was trying to get as much volume as possible.
This is a shallow mounted 10-inch Hertz sub. Obviously the other options is to go down the route of like a shallow mounted like 8-inch Prima sub. There's other options available, and that's again where we have a conversation with the client, and if something's really not possible, and if it is possible, it gets done in our building. If it's not possible, there's no way it came into our building and left without it being possible. We've got, for example, an SLS Black Series in our workshop at the moment, and following our success on that one, we've got 3 more SLS cars booked. And I ordered the rest of the kit, and he was like, how many SLS owners do you actually know? And how many SLS Black Series owners do you know? And I was like, a few. So that is cool. We've actually got them booked in on the same day.
Cool.
They're all coming on the same day. So we'll have
side by side.
Yeah, we've got an SLS Black Series day, which is quite cool. But anyway, like that car's come over from Germany to us to have the work done, because many other installers couldn't do what we were able to do.
Previously went to 4 or something?
4, I think it was. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If it's humanly possible to do on a car, it lands with us.
We do the painful stuff that no one else can be bothered to do,
and that's also the allocation of time that we allocate to the job. How many years have you been working on this car?
3, 4.
But it's about getting it right. This car's come all the way from Wales to us. It's going to obviously go back to Wales. It's a long way. We had a car come over from France yesterday for a quote. Ferrari 812 Superfast came over from France just to discuss options. From France, they travel far and wide, and it's very important that the work then matches that level. So obviously that's a very tight fit behind there, and JP will slap me if I ever book a deep sub to go into.
That'll be.
You would slap me.
I'll have carving some space out of the seats.
So there are options. Most of our clients do want a stock look, and that's how we've achieved that with the custom box behind there. Obviously the sound deadening, the original allocation on this job was 130 sheets.
130.
And how many did you fit in the end?
160 it was in
160,
total.
Fine. So we've done wheel arches, bonnet, floor, roof, even got into, obviously when wheel arches are off, managed to get into here. Roof's been done. So the only bit that's not been done is basically right back
cab.
here and up here. The rest is all kind of covered and sorted. This was because client does a lot of distance in the vehicle, wanted that road noise reduction, also the better environment for the system to work in, and also no rattles. So, which is what he had on his previous one, mostly because the install wasn't great and only 6 cable ties were used. And also the fact that there wasn't that much sound deadening.
No, and even the sound deadening it was placed in, it was placed in decent places and spread well. It just was not prepped correctly with heat and cleaning. Most of the sound deadening I pulled off by hand. I didn't even grab anything to it, and anything that did stick I actually left in there because it's only going to add to our stuff. But most of it I just grabbed it, pulled it off, and it just fell off, which means it's doing nothing.
So it wants to be properly installed. A lot of people think it's just a sheet and you slap it on. Yes, to an extent, but to do it properly, again, there's levels to the game, and that's where we then take it to another level. So spec-wise, on the in the rear doors is the Alderson Voce two-way set. So you've got the Alderson Voce tweeter, the AV 1.1 and the AV 6.5. We went through some options with the client of where he wanted the tweeter. He wanted to have a slightly better rear stage in the vehicle rather than have all of the clarity coming from a coaxial speaker down at the back. So we added the tweeter up higher up. And this actually looks quite nice. I quite like the look of it.
I actually managed to get it in the leather and spent a while cutting a hole so that the leather was kept, and then pressed it through, and it's almost a press fit really. And then secured from the back.
But yeah, it looks really nice. It's not too obtrusive and kind of blends in with the rest.
Blends in really nice.
That's the rear stage, and then front is where a hell of a lot of work's happened. So obviously the car originally was a two-way setup. So you had a mid-base driver and a tweeter in the OEM location, which was on the A-pillar?
Yeah,
on the A-pillar.
hot glued on.
So the way we've done this now is a very popular thing that we actually do in a lot of pickup trucks. We did it on a Ford Ranger.
Yes.
Yeah, Ford Ranger
Yeah,
relatively recently
yeah.
as well. But in essence, we've now got a Hertzmüller Legend three-way front end in the vehicle. So what we've got is the Hertzmüller Legend 6.5-inch mid-base driver in the door. We've got the Hertzmüller Legend tweeter and then the mid-range. Obviously, when a vehicle doesn't have a location for a mid-range in the vehicle, adding that in makes a huge difference. For me, a mid-range is probably the most important speaker in the vehicle. It's one of the things that if a car doesn't have it as a location, it's very noticeable. It takes the strain away. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. It takes a strain away from a tweeter and a mid-bass. So it makes everything sound more effortless and more smooth, basically, in a vehicle. So if that's something you're experiencing at the moment and you've only got a two-way setup, that's probably the reason. So it'd be well worth adding a mid-range. However, saying that, a lot of cars don't have the location, so it does involve a heavy amount of work to be able to get a mid-range location into a car that doesn't have it. Some cars, like a Ferrari 812, for example, or most of the Ferrari Amarok, they actually, if you have the non-upgraded system from Ferrari, not the JBL system, they've got a mid-range location in the vehicle, same as like the Audi R8s. You see it a lot more in supercars than anything else, but they've got the mid-range location, and Audis as well. So many cars have it, but if you've got a grille for a mid-range but no actual speaker in there, we can then adapt that to be able to accommodate in an OEM look. However, this vehicle, for example, didn't have that option of a mid-range from stock ever. There was never an upgraded system offered by manufacturer. So what that basically means is there's no mid-range location at all. So what we have to do is fabricate, which obviously takes more time, adds more cost, but well worth it because the difference is huge. So what we've done is relocated the tweeter from original A-pillar position over to what this was just a plastic.
Yeah, it's just a plastic cover.
Just to fill the gap. So Hertzmüller Legend's tweeter has been located onto there, and then you've got the Hertzmüller Legend 3-inch mid-range onto the A-pillar. And one nice thing that I've actually started noticing that we do is actually fit the grills to the mid-ranges. I don't know why. I don't know if they fit it without, they build the A-pillars without and then forget that they need a grill.
And then don't have the room for them or something.
I've seen so many installs now recently that are going without the grills, and I know for a fact it is not because the grills come in the kit. And I know that it's not because of anything else other than the fact that they forgot that they needed a grill and it's bigger with the grill.
It's a bit like that Skoda. The grill just didn't fit, and then they had to carve it down to try and get it into the slot.
So if you haven't watched that video, it's well worth the watch. We did that video. But yeah, so well, thank you for putting the grill on. Good job. So it was one of those things that it was just silly why people don't do it. But anyway, we've got the grill on, which is nice. So it just matches and blends in well. The client opted to go down the route of a Milano finish, which is very similar to Alcantara. Same sort of finish, like a suede effect, which looks quite nice. I messed up the design there.
Down.
But I mean, overall, they've come out really nice. The client opted to go down the route of on axis to the middle of the vehicle. And that's kind of one of my favourite ways of doing it, or going across the vehicle. I quite like a system that goes across. Just cosmetically, I think it looks quite nice, and it's not as imposing. We always go through options with anything custom. It's your car, you can have it however the hell you want it. So we go through options, and we sent over some options to go through and actually have it how he wanted it, and then the rest of it has been done already by time alignment to create staging in the vehicle for a driver focus, passenger focus, central focus, and different music and genres for the EQ side. And then we've also got the Kenwood 10.1 inch screen as a new head unit to give more functionality, which also retained all of the MFD system on the VW as well. So we've got the central controls controlled as well, climate control, retention, loads of bits and pieces. And then obviously all sound deadened, obviously bonnet's been deadened as well. Anything else have I missed?
DSP controller in the centre.
Yep.
That was actually placed in an original location of a...
Learn words.
Cigarette lighter, sorry. I was placed in the location of the cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
We actually spent a little bit of time carving that out by hand.
Yeah, we've got a nice little reel on that as well.
Yeah.
It came out quite nice.
Yeah. So that literally presses in and slots into the exact
There's
shape
a lot
of
of
it.
USB ports on this car anyway.
Yes.
There's a lot.
Yes, there's a lot.
And we've also added some as well because
In the rear,
there wasn't enough. So we added some more into the rear while the car's been apart as well. And yeah, one thing that we did find, which was actually a very dangerous thing on the vehicle, which I don't believe is done by the audio guys that did the work before, but I still hold them partly accountable.
Yeah.
Reason is because communication with a client is not a difficult thing in the modern world, okay? It takes 3 seconds for me to send a picture to a customer. It literally doesn't take long at all, okay? There is no reason why it shouldn't be done. If you find something, and with any industry, right? If you're a plumber or if you're whatever industry you're in, if you find shoddy workmanship or something that is a safety issue for your client, it is your responsibility to tell that client something. Whether they wish to fix it and ask you to pay for fix it or go back to wherever it was done, that is not your problem. That's not my problem. However, one thing that needs to be done is a communication saying, this is a problem, do what you want with it. I can either fix it, I can leave it, I can't fix it, it needs to go somewhere else. The client should know if there is a safety issue on a vehicle or in a house, in whatever, it is your responsibility. If you see crap work or dangerous work, crap work is one thing, like we saw obviously the poor workmanship that was done on the install, but a safety issue for someone is another thing, and everyone in the building knows if there's come across a safety issue, you send me a text and I'll send it straight to a client and let them know.
We have the group chats with just us two, and as we're working through the vehicle, we'll take pictures of everything that could be wrong, everything that we're doing, everything that we're taking off. It's just a build quality check so that we can check what we're doing as well, but then we're also taking pictures of what's in the vehicle and potentially what's wrong, and he can then look at that and send it to the customer and just talk with him and go, do you actually want to sort it?
So we might pop up a little picture of what we found here, but basically in the fuse box, which is where when they were doing the audio system, they must have removed that panel. Like, there's no reason why. They must have seen that work, and that work was actually done prior to the audio being done. So and unfortunately, we also know who did the work to what it was. And again, we're not here to name names, but again, it was a big business. Not good. Anyway, whoever it was, they know who they are. Shame on you. They went into the fuse box with a... Did they bit?
Spade connector.
A spade connector just shoved into
one of the terminals.
Into a random terminal.
Yeah.
So no fuse on the system.
Yeah.
We then found out what kit it was related to. We then
we searched it through the vehicle, tried to find it.
So we then sent that over to the, we sent it obviously to the client. He then told us who did the work. We then contacted the company that did the work, and they said they don't know what fuse it should have.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe why you just didn't put a fuse in. Anyway, I was like, cool, fine. I was like, can you support us in trying to find what fuse it requires? They then came back with and said it was a 40 amp fuse. The cable that was on that system was rated to
nowhere near that. 10, 20.
10, probably 10, 15 in terms of the cable rating. So they either don't know what fuse it should have, or they don't know what, they put the wrong cable in as well. Both incredibly dangerous, both incredibly incorrect for the client. He paid, again, good money. Should have been correct, should have been right. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, there's the safety issues on a vehicle, and to be honest, on this install, I know the install wasn't horrific. We've seen a hell of a lot worse, but at the same time, there are still safety issues. There's the fuse box, and I know that wasn't done by the audio guys, but they still have a responsibility to tell the client if they see something dangerous. Either they didn't think that was dangerous, or they were too lazy to talk to a client.
Exactly.
And the client is spending money. They're going to want to have something fixed that is wrong.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's not about kind of just telling people things and getting more work out of them. I would have been more than happy if he had I sent him the message and he goes, I'll go back to them to get it sorted.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. Like, it's just
because it's up to the customer. He can then
their,
take it back to them and go, right, it needs sorting.
It's their responsibility to sort, not ours. But the client should know about it. So yeah, I mean, a really, really incredible spec. The client's been absolutely amazing. JP, you've been absolutely amazing on it, and everyone else has worked on the vehicle as well. We're very much we've got a big team, so we're able to have multiple people help and support on a job. But every project that we do gets allocated to a lead engineer to their project. This man here on this one, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that person is then in control of the entire system. Anyone that's jumping on to give him a hand or allocated to the car on that day, JP would then manage and get it how he wants it to be done.
It's all taken to my level.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's not to my level, it gets redone.
Yep, and that's the thing. Luckily, as a team, everyone kind of has that same philosophy that. They know how everyone wants their car done. They know how the company needs to have the car done, and it is about that quality. And if it takes longer, so be it. I'm not fussed whether it takes longer. Our clients don't care if it takes a bit longer. We allocate the time. We tell the client in advance of how long we think it's going to be. We then crack on and go to the speed that we need to get the job done correctly. So we don't do stupid things like that fuse box, and we actually bolt things down. It's little things in the grand scheme of things, but at the end of the day, it's also safety things for a car, but also, and it affects sound quality hugely, and you guys are about to hear that, because we're going to step inside the car. Let's listen to it, and you'll hear, obviously we filmed before, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. 4 years ago. 4 years ago. 5 years
Shut
ago.
up.
So we filmed it before, so you'll get you might have had a trim and everything by then.
Oh yeah, no, I think I had a haircut.
Different man right here. So you'll see the before and after and get a good comparison. So let's jump inside and have a listen. Right, so we are about to listen to the system. So what we've got here is some ears. These are our listening ears, and these are going to be what you're going to be hearing the system through. So the reason why, obviously, this is the same as what it was before. We listen to this same setup to give you kind of as close as we can, kind of a real-world example of how this system is sounding. However, if you are sat there listening to this video and watching it on your phone, please stop doing that and put that on a set of proper headphones. If you are pause the video, wait till you get home and put it on a proper home system, or maybe even in a Cambridge car audio car. But what you need to do is be listening to this on a proper system to be able to hear the quality of what you are about to hear. So remember, guys, as well, this is processed through YouTube and all sorts of places wherever you're listening into. So like, yeah, it's not how good it sounds, but let's have a little listen to it. We're going to play a couple of tracks. JP's going to play some music through the Cambridge unit, and we're just going to love and listen to it.
I've been looking for a place that I'd rather be. I've been searching for my own destiny. I raise my gun to the sky and scream out loud. my life, this is my hope, this is what I stand for. Now it's the time to let it all. We are the young ones that fight for survival. We will watch it like a man on a fire. We are the young ones that fight for survival.
That is so good.
Not to lose the game. The darkest night is always seen. Wait on and on, then we're face to face. I've heard about you, you know about me.
That is mad.
The clarity is so much better.
It is so hugely different.
I used to dream about money, about a big house, but all I want is you. Your touch of fire when you love me, desirable, attainable, yeah, all I want is you. We are all the same, fame, attention, confirmation. Why do we care? What is it worth? What is it worth? We are all the same. We want to be loved, but that is not the same as being loved.
So, obviously that sounds absolutely bonkers. Obviously we tune. Did you do one in the video? Have you spoken much about tuning?
Not too much yet.
Okay, so in terms of tuning, just talk me through what you've done to get this car to where you are.
So it's a mix of actually a couple of different softwares we've used as well. So we've used Accordo to get a time alignment based on actually electronic signals. So it sends from the amplifier to the speaker and then to a microphone on the thing. So it gets an exact microsecond delay from amplifier output to what you hear. So it time aligns all of those speakers exactly. So they play exactly at the same time as they reach your ears. Then there's a couple of other bits like level alignments and things like that, just to get the volumes correct, which massively helps the actual placement in the vehicle of where you're listening to it. And then we've used REW, which is an amazing software that we found recently, that we manually go through and electronically tune and EQ each speaker for a basic setup, and then we will adjust slightly as we go off of what we can actually hear. And that creates an insanely accurate EQ for the speaker to get a very level and flat, and gets rid of all the huge peaks and huge troughs that you'd usually hear as like really sharp ringing or piercing noises, especially with pianos and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's very, very listenable to where we were just then, even at the higher volumes. It's incredibly listenable. It's not straining on your ears. It's very, very nice in terms of that full kind of how that overall sound is in that vehicle. It fills it very nicely, but it's also smooth, and that's that mid-range as well, kicking in, having that ability to take the strain away from the sharpness of a tweeter. It limits what actually a tweeter will do, because the mid-range will do a hell of a lot of that work.
Really gives clarity to those vocals as well when they're playing, especially with the actual position on the dash there as well. With them being so high up, it brings all the vocals very up towards you and brings it all in front of you here.
I mean, overall, that is absolutely incredible. I'm really, really happy with the final results.
Especially
of this.
the mid bass coming through, that is so much better.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never hear it properly from you guys watching at home. You'll never be able to experience the system and the goosebumps it gives you as you go, but the car just basically needs to have its final tests done, final checkovers. We always get one of the engineers that haven't touched the car to go around the car and go through and check everything, because it's a fresh pair of eyes, just to make sure nothing's been missed, everything's clean and tidy, ready to go back to the client, so we know everything is inch perfect for the client. So obviously the lead engineer will check over the car at the end, but obviously that engineer has also been human nature, been looking at that car for however many weeks or days or whatever it is, or years, So yeah, it's very much about just creating an overall better environment, acoustic environment inside the vehicle, making sure it's clean, tidy, and obviously as we progress, we've been keeping the client up to date with pictures and content as we go, and obviously keeping on top of socials. So yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video from myself and JP and the rest of the team. We'll see you on the next one.